Now to Barrister Deji, human rights lawyer and civil rights activist. Sir, welcome to the program. Can you tell us more about the accusations being put forward against the River State governor? Why was he targeted, do you think?
Thank you for having me on the show, and it's a pleasure to join you all the way from Abuja in the nation's capital. Yes, it's in my mind, the reason why the governor and the River State Assembly were targeted is extremely political. Because, there's a threshold, a democratic threshold, stipulated in the Constitution under Section 305 of our Constitution, 1999 as amended, that while it is considered that the President and Commander-in-Chief has the powers to declare state of emergency, however, there is a constitutional threshold, which is more or less like a condition precedent in that section, that there must be certain grounds for the declaration of the state of emergency. For instance, during wartime, or when there's a fear of invasion of our nation, or when there has been complete breakdown of law and order, or when there's fear or apprehension of invasion of the country, or maybe during natural disasters, when maybe a state of emergency is needed to declare, maybe for instance during COVID, to avoid spread, or during natural disasters, or when there's serious threat to the nation, or to any region or different parts of it. So then, if those things are present, then that threshold will have been fulfilled and the condition precedent will have been met. Then the president cannot declare state of emergency in line with the provision of Section 305, and the president must seek and get approval of 2/3 majority of the National Assembly. And even at that, even when the state of emergency has been so declared, rightly declared in line with the provision of the Constitution, that state of emergency does not serve as a stay against the governor from performing his constitutional duties as governor, because the governor, just like the president, is an elected official by the people. The governor cannot be suspended so moto via a press conference by the president, just like the way nobody can suspend the president via a press conference, because he's an elected representative of the people. Both the governor and the members of the State House of Assembly are elected members of both parliament and the executive arm of that state. And the only grounds upon removal of the governor has been captured in Section 188 of our Constitution. The procedures for removing the governor is by an impeachment proceedings. That has not been done in this case. The other exceptional circumstance where a governor might be removed is by the court during an election petition proceedings or a pre-election matter. Those two instances that I've just referenced earlier have not arisen. That is not the case in the instant situation. But the president has gone ultra-vires the Constitution and outside his powers. The powers given to the president under Section 305 of our Constitution are not at large. The president cannot just unilaterally remove the governor. It is indeed laughable, because things like this can only happen in Nigeria or Africa, where the people do not have respect or regard for rule of law or constitutional democracy. Can President Trump, the president of the United States of America, can he remove the governor of California via a press conference? The answer is in the negative.
Barrister Deji, human rights lawyer and a civil rights activist, thank you for that analysis.
Thank you for having me.
What do you make of the constitutional angle, the legal background to this issue?
From the legal angle, I see, for me, I was relatively surprised at the speech of the president. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu practically played his card out. It now dawned on us Nigerians that it wasn't Wike that was fighting Fubara, but Wike was merely just a tool. The battle was actually between Tinubu and Fubara.
But he made efforts to resolve the issue.
When he made efforts, he called them for a meeting and he told Fubara to stoop low to conquer. That is to say, he should make provisions for all of those commissioners that had left his government. Fubara insisted and gave provisions for them to come back. He made an appeal review for them to come back in a bid for trying to reconstitute a sane governance. Then he gave a Supreme Court judgment that was not a reflection of justice. People had said that when you go to court and ask for a court about A, B, C, and the court declares and gives you A, B, C, and D. And even as I speak with you now, some of the Supreme Court judges have gone behind the scene to review that judgment and say there's an erroneous disposition in that judgment. It's not a reflection of justice. And yet, the man, in all humility, still said he was willing to implement the judgment in total. It was as though they said, maybe, first of all, this guy will not take our instructions. They gave him instruction he could not swallow. Later, they came back, they gave him a Supreme Court judgment that was almost impossible for him to implement. He said he will. You see Fubara in humility. People who started losing interest that this man can't fight, this man does not have the bold to stand strong and defend himself. He went to the House of Assembly in a bid to present. When we saw that they botched the effort and they left the House of Assembly in a bid to frustrate the mass efforts. And today we've got to this point. See, when you talk about Section 308, there are conditions that necessitate the declaration of state of emergency. The first one of them is that there must be either war, insurrection, civil unrest that will lead to the complete breakdown of law and order.
So you want to, when you're expecting to win?
No, listen to me. That is what the law says.
Yes.
There is war, insurrection, civil unrest, a complete. I didn't write the Constitution. Constitution was written as a supreme level to guide us. It's complete. There was no complete breakdown of order. There was no war. There was no insurrection. The other option was that there would be a natural disaster that will lead to a public unrest, health unrest, or public health emergency. There was nothing like that. The third one was that there would either be a situation whereby the state government cannot function. That was the question. So we saw that there was a deliberate and a cooked-up attempt to look for the slightest provocation to invoke the law, because even the threshold for the declaration of a state of emergency was not met. They cornered this thing, went to blow up pipeline. They blew the pipeline around in the morning or yesterday evening. And the next minute, you are declaring state of emergency without doing proper investigation to ascertain the validity or the extent at which it has come. It was the same Wike who opened his mouth and made these unguided statements that infuriated the judge, who called them minorities, said they don't have the capacity to produce a governor anywhere. And that's what has infuriated us. So we see this daily attempt. And you see what makes it very irritating? The man went behind the guys to say because there's no state of emergency that the man starts suspended. And I dare say, there is no provision in the Nigeria Constitution that empowers the president to unilaterally suspend a governor, directly or indirectly, and there are legal precedents to it. Obasanjo did it in 2004 and 2006 when he suspended the governor of Plateau State because there was a killings, tribal wars and court killings. He did it in the case of Ayodele Fayose. And we also know what happened in the case when the thing was challenged in the court. The thing fell flat, he could not stand. Tinubu now, who claimed to be a Democrat, has now engaged in destroying the structures because there was even a judgment. We saw the judgment in 2006 between the Akata General, the Attorney General of Lagos State, and the Attorney General of the Federation, when the Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional for the president to meddle into the affairs of the state. We've seen another president between in 2014, Fawemi and the Abacha, when the Supreme Court also ruled that even in a state of emergency, the president must follow due process. What I still want to advise Fubara is that Fubara needs to understand these intricacies of governance. That first of all, before it will take like 2 days, a minimum of 2 days for the House of Assembly to ratify the state of emergency. And if they were in recess, it would take about like 10 days. Fubara should take this opportunity to challenge this in the court. We should file a suit at the Supreme Court challenging the suspension. His own suspension by the president unilaterally without any provisional constitution. Secondly, he will now file an injunction, an interim injunction restraining the president from appointing an administrator over Rivers State because that thing is totally unconstitutional and not required. We will restrain him and also restrain the federal government from using the federal security agencies from intimidating or implementing the state of emergency so that he too can hold sway. He has to defend himself because what we run here in democracy is not a dictatorship where one man holds sway and cannot. If you look clearly, see, if you go and visit what it takes to remove a sitting governor, there are only four provisions. The first one of them is in section 188, where it says an impeachment process, where 1/3 of the House of Assembly must raise a motion. There's a motion of gross misconduct or abuse or illegality, and the Chief Justice will set up a committee, a 7-man committee, that will investigate and revert back to the House, and 2/3 majority will sign to get the governor out. That's impeachment. The second one is the issue of incapacitation, when the governor is no longer capacity, they don't have the capacity to preside. Maybe he's mentally derailed or he's sick. The State Executive Council can come together. That one is in section 189. The state can come together and write to the House of Assembly that this governor can no longer perform, and they will prove medical results, health results, to show that the man is incapacitated. That's the second one. The third one is the issue of resignation. In section 305, the governor can 306 rather, the governor can write to the House of Assembly that he is resigning, that he does no longer want to run for any reason best known to him, then the governor will step down. There is a third one, when you call the issue of death. Either the guy dies or the issue of falsification. When maybe the governor is dead, he can no longer function, or perhaps maybe there was a falsification of result. Maybe he did a wrong age declaration, wrong as education certificate, or maybe he lied on that oath, any falsification, or he was an ex-convict. Those are the only provisions in the Constitution that makes it possible for a governor to be ejected or impeached from seat. There's nowhere where these guys can be used. So what I see is a direct attack of democracy, a usurpation on the powers of the state government, and an effort to destroy what is left of this national democracy.
All right, let me consider politics. I'll come back to you. Shedrack, I mean, we are always on this trajectory, unfortunately so, where we have former governor and his prodigy always at loggerheads. And you just wonder, when will this ever end? Against the background of some of the things that starts following. The people usually are the receiving end moments like this, and it's as though when moments like this come, the protagonists are never really concerned about the plights of the people. If Mr. President has taken an action that will bring to the fore the plights of the people in terms of governance, in terms of development, in terms of making life more meaningful for the people, against the background that Rivers State is always a hotspot when it comes to crisis, conflicts, insecurity, and all of that. Isn't that the step that we should commend Mr. President for?
You know, the thing, we commend people for interventions of this nature. But first of all, you can't commend the person without looking at the quality of the intervention. If the intervention will reduce the problem or to further exacerbate it. That's my own problem. The interventions the man has made, the first time when he called them for this resolution, the second time when the Supreme Government came out, and this one, the Director of Measures, there's no one that shows that it truly means well for the people of Rivers State. Because while this battle has been ongoing, it has been sustained by the resources of Wike, who to a large extent was like governor of Abuja, of the FCT. So we saw that the politicians loyal to Wike were getting funded from the FCT. The 27 lawmakers, when they left Rivers State, they moved to Abuja and they were enjoying the resources. Wike was paid them salary, giving them contracts. While the politicians in Rivers State were loyal to Fubara, Fubara had to consistently oil the way to ensure that they do not defect or go the other way. That is the challenge. The politicians have been cashing out at the detriment of good governance. I said to you, good governance is on holiday on Rivers State. And now, this suspension, what will it do? It will further weaken the base of the Fubara supporters to say that those people who perhaps are loyal to Fubara will now begin to calculate, are we in the wrong camp, are we in the right camp? For a man that did not calculate, the man did not calculate that is going to leave office. He just woke up one morning and said that 2 days time he will be leaving office. That means to say the man has now will have some resources. The commissioners of special advisors just they know we have resources. So they will quickly go broke in no distant time. And Wike, still being Minister of Justice, will begin to harvest them like ripe fruits from the tree. And before you know, they will now increase suspension again with another 6 months. After the Barrister stays 1 year outside government, he will not have the requisite capacity to challenge Wike again. And by that time, he would have been humbled and cornered. And that's how the battle had been orchestrated to end up.
Okay, let me press
there was a question. Sorry.
The House of Assembly, following the Supreme Court judgment at our meeting, Amawole, who is the Speaker, was already talking about some of the infractions of Fubara. And the list is very long. Destroying the House of Assembly was one of them. And then, of course, the willingness to continue governance and government without the input of a full complement of the House. The willingness to make appointments without recourse to the House. And then the willingness to continue government with just about 4 members of the House of Assembly. I mean, what do you make of all of this? Are you saying in all of this, you can easily just absorb Fubara of any wrongdoing? Now, in any case, Mr. President, in exercise of his authority as the Commander-in-Chief, decided to take action yesterday to avoid a breakdown of law and order. We know we always have this sort of blame games. If he hadn't taken action, and maybe the crisis had snowballed to destruction of lives and property, destruction of critical assets, we will say, oh, why didn't Mr. President take action? Why wasn't he proactive? I mean, that's one of your favorite language.
Yes. You know, even before now, I had never taken sides with this issue of Fubara Wike. I've almost said that both of them have erred. Fubara is a pure product of political godfatherism. A man who was not in the political trenches before all his life. He had never contested for anything, never councillor, never assembly member, never anything. He was just a He was formerly a director. They later promoted to become a Kata General because he helped Wike to siphon state resources.
No, you can't say that.
Okay, but there's no evidence. But as at that time, it was no evidence.
Yeah, no evidence.
But as at the time he wanted to become governor, ESCC was looking for him. Wike hid him in government house. And all of a sudden, he brought the man and the man became governor. The man wanted to inherit the asset and not the liability. So the challenge is that in the way it came, it was even practically impossible for those House of Assembly members, those persons who have been politicians all their life, to pay loyalty or allegiance to a man who had never been a politician. They saw him as a man who was not fit to be their leader. And because Wike became governor of FCT, it became like they had to pay their allegiance to another man. So the challenge for me, the Fubara has heard in some of his actions and inactions, in not starting as a boy to Wike and not wanting to end as a boy is his challenge, because he does not have the political wit, the structure, the gap to stand on his own and offer direction, because he practically didn't win for himself. The victory was given and gifted to him. So he had political liability to bear that he refused to bear, that snowballed into this destruction. But whether you like it or not, there was a man who came out in public domain to say that even when the man becomes governor, he will leave the man to control governance, which is ought to be. We know that the man is not in control of the people, but we are giving the man the liberty to run government as he pleases. But to now arrange it to say you can't bring this commissioner, you will bring this amount of money, you ask for a member, the structure will belong to me, all of those ones are unnecessary. Because the man practically, and you saw what happened, you brought the man in PDP, you went to APC. And you wanted to ensure that while in APC, you were controlling the PDP party, controlling the governor, telling him what to do. It was far. The man went too rich. Went too far. The reach was too far. And when the president acted like a partisan politician. It wasn't fatherly in any direction. When two people are fighting, you call one, you sanction one, you suspend one. The other one is gallivanting and enjoying life. What were you expecting Mr. President to have done? Fubara is not there, his deputy is not there, the House of Assembly members, they are not there, they are both out of government. Where is Wike? Yes, Wike in Rivers State. Who has championed the illegality in Rivers State? Rivers State. He's not government. If Wike had died yesterday, will the battle continue? If Wike had died yesterday and they announced that Wike is suddenly dead, would they be fighting in Rivers State? That's the question you ask yourself. If Fubara had died yesterday, would they have asked everywhere? These are the two principal actors. Anybody can die. Awole can die and disappear. As for members can die and disappear. All the deputy governor, all of them can die and disappear. But if these two principal actors do not die and disappear, the battle continues. That is where the fight is. And the man made it look as though he does not understand the intricacies of what was happening in Rivers State. And I dare say, this declaration of a state of emergency will further exacerbate the already exacerbated situation in Rivers State. There will be more violence and chaos right now. Because first of all, the judge and I agree. Because even the statement he made, it was very, very petty. He said an initial suspension. That is to say, there are plans to increase it subsequently. But the Constitution provides for that. No, I said the Constitution does not provide for a president to suspend the governor. State of emergency. Yes, but not a suspension. Yes. But not a suspension. Yes. And if we ever a state of emergency, the governor will still be government and run. The only that there will be some bridges. As I said, under a state of emergency, the new admiral they are bringing in now, that guy will spend money without legislative we are preparing resources as he likes. He can just wake up and say, oh, there's no road here, try this road, and tractor will appear, no procurement, no tenders, but no nothing. Resources will deploy rastly. There will be arrest of innocent citizens without due process. That is what is legislated. So that's what it was not attempt.
Sure, let me pause there. What does the future hold for Rivers State with the incoming of a sole administrator? For some analysts, Wike has had the laugh last, even though the process is still on. 6 months, can be renewed, as it were. But let me take it from you.
Now for me, if I was in a position to advise Fubara, I won't advise him to leave office, to challenge the court, Supreme Court, obtain restraining order, right to the international organizations, right to ECOWAS, right to African Union, right to European Union.
And go and disgrace us in public.
Yes, it's possible, because what has happened is not because we have to rise after he has written to describe the situation as a direct attack on the Nigerian democracy that is tied around the interest, political interest, the narrow political interest of an individual. We call all those other organizations like the NBA, the SERAP, the ROLAC, all those civil society organizations in Nigeria that is positioned with defending the rule of law and the tenets of democracy. Let them also have a say. The people will have to continue. The truth is that, see, we can't continue with a structure that is dysfunctional. This thing will set a wrong precedent. Tomorrow, another president will come and we tell somebody to go and shoot banger in the government house. When they shoot banger, scatter one railroad, they scatter one railroad, he will declare an emergency and suspend the governor. It will create a bad precedent. We cannot continue like this. First of all, there must be resistance. The man should offer some structure in resistance. But beyond that, if he leaves office as he has said, because I listen to him very clearly, the speech, I don't know how true it is. He issued one speech yesterday night that people should stand strong, will do this, that. If he chooses to leave, well, we'll see the admiral come with a mighty force. We'll see military positioned everywhere. And the instruction will be given to him to hoodwink all those persons who had been loyal to Fubara. They will begin to call people to sides, begin to attack political interests and reduce political enemies. How can one man sit down and think about all of the challenges of governance in those states and offer good governance? There's not going to be good governance from one head. There's no one man who knows all the problems of Rivers State. Of course, Rivers has been a hotbed because of the resources. How can the state have 170 billion naira annually to toy with? A governor that has over $1 billion naira security vote. The humongous resources in Rivers State is what has made this so pronounced in terms of chaos and riots. Why is there no fighting in Gombe? Why is there no fighting at Dawama? Money that is not enough to pay salaries. We will fight. It is stupendous resources. When you see crisis, you see it in Kano, you see it in Rivers, you see it in Lagos, it's because of the resources. What Wike are going to do? There's a slogan in my village. I didn't stay long enough in the village to say it in that language. But it simply means that when a plantain becomes too strong, it will tear. That is exactly what I know will happen to Wike in no distant time. In no distant time, we will see the battle between Wike and Tinubu. That will be the last face-off. And that's where the APC will tear in totality. Because the man had not tried to create a god out of himself. He had saw he saw the dynamics that Tinubu used in Lagos. Tinubu became governor, left and entrenched the principality. He created a precedent of where he can sit in the sitting room and continually change who becomes governor. And began to spread his coast to other states. And that was what he rode on and became president. Wike went to arrange such a system of that nature for himself. He went to be governor. After governor, you put a governor there, you control the governor as he pleases you. Then you begin to stretch your tentacles. That's why man went so deep into the People's Democratic Party. That even today, the national secretary, former national secretary of the PDP, is like a toy to him. The deputy vice president South for PDP, Danobi, is like a boy to him. He carries them around because he uses them as a tool.
Even the chairman of
the party. So that is the kind of thing the man went to do, so that he will become a sole dictator who have so many fangs. That's why he was interested in Edo State, and he went to sponsor Obaseki to destroy Shomule, believing that when Obaseki came on board, Obaseki was going to tie his neck to the April stroke of Wike, and the man quickly cut his neck and told him, "Your arm on my own," and he fell out. And battle started. So I see Wike, his desperation. Just yesterday night, I went to revoke the land of the PDP secretariat, and I look at the man and I say, "Does he really know what he is doing?" Your party. The man is not fighting himself. What is happening is that Tinubu is simply using him to fight. Because if PDP practically just get smoked out as a political party, the opposition disappears. What happens? Tinubu has a free ride. I have seen Tinubu do this thing repeatedly. He did it with Labour Party, sent his cronies into the party. The party went there, they frustrated Peter Obi. Peter Obi was like a golden candidate. Fubara had to run away from Labour Party. Today he's not a member of Labour Party. They went to Kano, a new Nigerian Labour Party. They caught a fashion inside, and the fashions in the Labour Party came together and said they are suspending a governor. I don't know, man. How can a party suspend the only governor it has in the country, and you say there's no external influence? Tinubu, see, when somebody goes into government and he seeks re-election in his heart of hearts, he wants to be governor for the second tenure. What is expected is that the man will focus on all the promises he made. The promises he made on electricity. Tinubu opened his mouth and said, if he cannot give you light in the first 4 years, constant electricity in Nigeria, that Nigeria should stone him when he comes to ask for a second tenure. He said it in his mouth, the videos are in public domain. He promised economic growth. He promised sustainability. All of those things are bejested. Instead of him to focus on good governance, he's focusing on breaking the structures and ensuring that he holds people down to ransom and enthrone himself in subsequent elections. We are happy and we are watching, because I know that when illegality multiplied by illegality is always result to illegality, and we will stand strong. As he has scattered the ship will reunite in 2027. And I tell you, I see APC go for an implosion. I see Tinubu not getting elected, no matter the illegality that the man has orchestrated. Because the will of the people.
Only time will tell. I mean,
time will tell.